The dining room glowed with warm amber light, crystal glasses catching and fracturing beams across the crisp white tablecloth. The Parker family reunion, an annual tradition revived after 3 years of pandemic-enforced separation. 36 relatives crowded around the extended table, their faces flushed with wine and nostalgia. Emma Parker, 32, sat quietly at the far end, her fingers nervously tracing the rim of her water glass. She'd spent weeks preparing for this evening. The carefully selected navy dress that her mother had once complimented, the promotion at work she could finally announce, the 3-hour drive made immediately after an important client meeting. Her sister Olivia sat diagonally across, effortlessly elegant as always, her recent engagement ring catching the light with every gesture. "If I could have everyone's attention," Margaret Parker rose, wine glass in hand, her voice carrying the authority that had defined Emma's childhood. The room fell silent. Margaret's eyes, warm with emotion, swept across the gathering before settling on Olivia. "We've waited so long to be together like this again. 3 years without seeing all your faces in one room?" Emma straightened in her chair, her practiced smile ready. She caught her father's eye. He nodded slightly, perhaps remembering their conversation last week about her recent success at the architectural firm. "In that time," Margaret continued, "we've all faced challenges, but some of us have truly flourished." Her gaze remained fixed on Olivia, who blushed appropriately. "Today, I want to raise a toast to my daughter, the child we're proud of." The moment stretched into eternity. Emma's smile froze, then fractured. The words hung in the air like shattered glass. Not one of the children we're proud of, or a child we're proud of, but the child. Singular. Definitive. 35 faces turned toward Olivia, glasses raising in unison. Only one pair of eyes, belonging to Emma's cousin Theo, darted toward Emma, witnessing as she seemed to physically shrink in her chair, becoming smaller, translucent, a ghost at her own family table. "To Olivia," Margaret beamed, "who has not only secured partnership at her law firm, but has finally found a man worthy of her. We couldn't be prouder." As glasses clinked around her, Emma reached for her water, her hand trembling just enough to send ripples across its surface. The remainder of dinner passed in a blur of voices and laughter that seemed to exist in another dimension. Emma responded when directly addressed, smiled when appropriate, and methodically cut her salmon into perfectly even pieces she couldn't taste. The practiced performance of normalcy she'd perfected since childhood. "You're awfully quiet tonight," Aunt Patricia said, leaning across the table. "Everything okay at that little design company of yours?" "Architectural firm," Emma corrected automatically. "And yes, actually, I was made junior partner last month." "Oh, how nice," Patricia said, already turning back toward Olivia's animated story about her engagement. Emma excused herself as dessert was being served, navigating the narrow passage between chairs and relatives, who barely shifted to let her through. In the upstairs bathroom, her childhood bathroom with the same faded blue wallpaper, she braced herself against the sink, finally meeting her own eyes in the mirror. "The child we're proud of," she whispered to her reflection. The words still burned. 32 years of striving, of carefully calibrated achievements, of measuring herself against Olivia's shadow, reduced to a single, clarifying moment of truth. Her phone buzzed in her purse. A text from Theo. "In the kitchen when you're ready, brought bourbon." Theo, her mother's sister's son, had always existed on the family periphery, like Emma, though for different reasons. His crime was being too loud, too honest, too unwilling to adhere to the Parker family mythology of perfect Sunday dinners and unspoken hurts. In the kitchen, he was leaning against the counter, 2 tumblers already poured. "That was brutal," he said without preamble, sliding one glass toward her. "Was it obvious?" Emma asked, taking a long sip, welcoming the burn. "To anyone paying attention." He shrugged. "So no, probably not to most of them." Emma laughed despite herself. 32 years of evidence doesn't lie. I should be used to it by now." "There's a difference between knowing something and having it announced at a family dinner," Theo countered. "You're allowed to be hurt." Through the doorway, they could hear Margaret's laugh rising above the general conversation, followed by Olivia's lighter one, a perfect harmony they'd perfected years ago. "You know what's funny?" Emma swirled the amber liquid. "I actually thought tonight might be different. I had this whole fantasy that Mom would finally see me, really see me, and be proud of what I've accomplished." "What have you accomplished?" Theo asked, not unkindly. "Besides what you thought would make her proud?" The question landed like a stone. Emma stared at him, momentarily speechless. "I'm serious," he continued. "When was the last time you did something because you wanted to, not because it might earn you a seat at Margaret Parker's table of approval. Before Emma could answer, the kitchen door swung open. Olivia stood there, radiant in her cream dress, a look of concern crossing her perfect features. "There you are! Mom's looking for you. We're about to do the family photo." Her eyes darted between Emma and Theo, noting the glasses. "Everything okay?" "Perfect," Emma replied with a practiced smile. "Just catching up with Theo." Olivia hesitated. For a brief moment, something like genuine concern flickered across her face. "That toast? I didn't know Mom was going to say that. It's fine." Emma cut her off, unable to bear her sister's pity on top of everything else. "Really, I'm happy for you." "Well, hurry out. You know how Mom gets about the photos." Olivia retreated, the door swinging shut behind her. Theo raised an eyebrow. "The family photo. Can't miss that perfect opportunity to pretend for posterity." Emma drained her glass. "Some roles can't be recast, Theo. I learned that a long time ago." "Maybe," he said, refilling her glass. "Or maybe it's time to walk off the set." The family photo was a choreographed affair, height order in the back row, seated elders in front, children cross-legged on the floor. Emma found herself positioned at the far edge, partially hidden by her cousin's husband. As the photographer counted down, she held her smile with mechanical precision, a skill honed through years of Christmas cards and graduation photos, where she stood in Olivia's shadow. "One more for safety," the photographer called, and Emma felt something crack inside her. 32 years of one more for safety. 32 years of being the backup plan, the insurance policy, the lesser option. When the photo session ended, Emma slipped away to the back porch. The night air carried the scent of her mother's prized roses, their perfume almost suffocating in its sweetness. She leaned against the railing, looking out at the perfectly manicured lawn where she and Olivia had once played as children, before achievements and expectations had drawn the dividing line between them. "Escaping already?" Her father's voice came from behind, followed by his familiar tread on the wooden boards. "Just getting some air," Emma replied, not turning. Richard Parker was not an unkind man, merely an absent one who had surrendered the emotional management of the family to his wife decades ago. He stood beside her now, hands in his pockets, gazing at the same view. "Your mother doesn't always think about how her words land," he said finally. "She gets caught up in the moment." It was the closest thing to an apology Emma would get, not from the person who had hurt her, but from the one who had watched it happen and done nothing, as he had done all her life. "It wasn't a moment, Dad. It was a declaration of what she's always felt." Emma's voice remained steady. "What you've both always felt." Richard sighed, a weary sound. "That's not fair, Emma. We've always been proud of both our girls." "Have you?" She finally turned to face him. "When was the last time either of you said that to me? When was the last time you even asked about my work, my life, anything that matters to me?" The silence between them expanded, filled with 32 years of unasked questions. In the distance, laughter spilled from the house, Olivia's voice rising above the others. "I asked about your promotion last week," he offered weakly, and then promptly forgot about it tonight when it mattered. Emma shook her head. "It's okay, Dad. Really. Tonight just made explicit what I've always known, implicitly." Richard's face crumpled slightly, age lines deepening under the porch light. For a moment, Emma saw him clearly, not as the distant father who had failed to protect her, but as a man who had also been diminished by his choices, by the path of least resistance he'd walked for decades. "I should go back in," she said, softer now, "before Mom sends out a search party." As she reached for the door handle, Richard spoke again. "I read about your West Side project in the Architectural Journal, the community center with the rooftop garden. That was yours, wasn't it?" Emma froze, hands suspended in midair. "You subscribe to Architectural Digest?" "For about 10 years now." A faint smile crossed his face. "I keep them in my study." Something shifted between them, not a repair of all that was broken, but perhaps the first honest moment they'd shared in years. Emma nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Inside, the party had evolved. Someone had pushed back the furniture in the living room, creating a makeshift dance floor where Olivia and her fiancé were swaying to an old Sinatra tune. Margaret orbited them, taking photos with her phone, her face luminous with pride. Emma stood in the doorway, suddenly struck by how exhausting it all was. This perpetual reaching for a mother's love that had never been hers to claim. "There you are!" Margaret's voice cut through Emma's thoughts. "Come join the dancing. Olivia and James are showing everyone their first dance for the wedding." Before Emma could respond, her mother had already turned away, phone raised to capture another perfect moment of her perfect daughter's perfect life. Emma watched as Olivia executed a graceful twirl, her fiancé James catching her with practiced ease. They'd probably rehearsed for weeks. Olivia never left anything to chance. "Quite the spectacle," Theo murmured, appearing at Emma's side with a fresh drink for each of them. "Is it just me, or are we watching the Margaret Parker Show, starring Olivia as Mini Margaret?" "Don't," Emma said, though without heat. "Olivia's always been good at being what Mom wanted. And you've always been good at trying to be that, which isn't the same thing." Theo clinked his glass against hers. "So what are you going to do about it?" "Do?" Emma raised an eyebrow. "I'm going to finish this drink, endure another hour of this reunion, drive back to my hotel, and return to my life tomorrow. What else is there?" "Oh, I don't know," Theo drawled. "Maybe stop auditioning for a role you're never going to get." The words landed with unexpected force. Emma had spent her entire adult life designing spaces for others, beautiful, functional buildings that transformed communities, while failing to build anything resembling a true foundation for herself. Across the room, Margaret was now guiding guests to admire Olivia's engagement ring. The diamond caught the light, throwing tiny rainbows against the wall, an unsubtle metaphor for how Olivia had always been the prism through which the Parker family's light was refracted. "Emma, come see Olivia's ring up close," Margaret beckoned imperiously. In that moment, something crystallized in Emma. Not anger exactly, but a sudden bone-deep clarity. She set down her untouched drink. "Actually, Mom, I think I'm going to head out." The room didn't fall silent. That would have required people to actually notice. But Margaret's face registered momentary confusion, followed by dismissal. "Don't be silly, it's barely 9. We haven't even cut the reunion cake." "I have an early meeting tomorrow," Emma lied smoothly. "A potential client for a major downtown development." "On a Sunday?" Margaret's skepticism was palpable. "The client is flying in from Tokyo," Emma continued, the fabrication expanding with surprising ease. "Their Sunday is our Saturday." From across the room, Olivia was watching the exchange, her expression unreadable. For a fleeting moment, Emma wondered if her sister ever tired of her pedestal, if the weight of being the child they were proud of ever became too heavy to bear. "Well, if you must," Margaret said with a sigh that suggested Emma was once again making the wrong choice. "I'll have your father pack up some cake for you." "No need." Emma stepped forward and, in a move that surprised even herself, hugged her mother briefly. It was good to see everyone. Margaret stiffened slightly before returning the embrace with mechanical precision. "Drive safely," she said, already glancing back toward Olivia and the waiting audience. As Emma moved through the room, saying abbreviated goodbyes, she felt a strange lightness building in her chest. By the time she reached her car, keys in hand, it had transformed into something she hadn't expected. Laughter. Quiet at first, then building into something raw and real that echoed in the quiet suburban night. Her phone buzzed with a text from Theo. "Proud of you, cuz." 3 simple words that somehow meant more than all the approval she'd ever sought from her mother. Emma started her car and pulled away from her childhood home, the rearview mirror reflecting the warm glow of windows that had never quite contained her. The hotel room was anonymous and beige, but it was hers alone, a neutral space without history or expectation. Emma kicked off her heels and stood at the window, watching the lights of downtown Indianapolis flicker in the distance. 3 floors below, late-night traffic moved in orderly patterns, each vehicle following its predetermined path. Emma had always been good at following paths, getting good grades because that's what was expected, attending her mother's alma mater because that would make her proud, pursuing architecture because it was adjacent to art, her true passion, but respectable enough for the Parker family name. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through the photos she'd taken earlier that day before the reunion, quick snapshots of buildings that had caught her eye during her walk around the city. Not the grand historical structures that appeared in tourism brochures, but the overlooked corners. A converted warehouse with surprisingly delicate ironwork, an old fire station repurposed as a community art space, a row of century-old workers' cottages whose asymmetrical charm defied the neighborhood's gentrification, beauty in the overlooked, value in what others dismissed. Emma opened her laptop and pulled up the email she'd received 2 weeks ago but hadn't yet answered. A former college classmate now ran an architectural nonprofit in Detroit, focusing on sustainable urban renewal in underserved communities. They wanted Emma to lead a major project, less money than her current firm offered, but creative control and purpose that her corporate projects lacked. She had drafted and deleted a polite rejection 3 times, always with her mother's voice in her head. Nonprofit work is for those who couldn't make it in the real world. Now, fingers hovering over the keyboard, Emma began to type a different response. I've been considering your offer, and I'm intrigued by the possibility. A sharp knock at her door interrupted her flow. Emma frowned, checking the peephole to find, impossibly, Olivia standing in the hallway, still in her cream dress from the reunion, though now paired incongruously with a worn leather jacket. What are you doing here? Emma asked, opening the door. How did you even know where I was staying? Dad told me. Olivia stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. Nice room, very hotel-ish. Emma closed the door, watching her sister prowl the perimeter of the room like an elegant cat in unfamiliar territory. Shouldn't you be back at the party? I'm sure Mom has at least 3 more toast opportunities planned. Olivia winced, stopping her circuit to face Emma directly. That's why I'm here, actually. What Mom said tonight was awful. It was honest, Emma replied, surprising herself with her calm. Painfully, publicly honest, but not exactly breaking news. Don't do that, Olivia said sharply. Don't pretend it didn't hurt you. I saw your face, Em. The childhood nickname caught Emma off guard. Olivia hadn't called her that since they were teenagers, before college and careers had widened the gap between them into a chasm. Fine, it hurt. Emma sat on the edge of the bed. But what exactly are you doing here, Liv? Checking to make sure I'm not about to drive off a bridge? Your conscience can rest easy. Olivia flinched. That's not fair. I didn't ask to be her favorite. Didn't you, though? The words escaped before Emma could stop them. You've spent your entire life becoming exactly what she wanted. Law school, the right fiancé, even your hair is the same shade of blonde as hers. And you've spent your entire life resenting me for it instead of just living your own life. Olivia shot back, color rising in her cheeks. Do you think it's easy being the one she focuses all her expectations on? At least you got to disappoint her from a distance. The silence that followed was electric with 3 decades of unspoken truths. I never wanted to disappoint her, Emma said finally, her voice quiet. I spent my entire life trying not to. Olivia moved to the window, her back to Emma. I know, that's what makes it all so awful. We've both been performing for an audience of one, and for what? Outside, a siren wailed briefly before fading into the night. The sisters remained in their respective corners, the hotel room suddenly too small to contain the weight of their shared history. Do you remember when we were kids? Olivia said suddenly. And we used to build forts in the living room? Before Mom decided it was unbecoming for girls our age? Emma smiled despite herself. You were always the architect. I just provided the blankets. No. Olivia turned, her expression unexpectedly fierce. You were the one with the vision. I just followed the rules, like always. The acknowledgement, so simple and yet so profound, hung between them. Emma felt something shift, a tectonic plate of understanding moving incrementally after decades of pressure. Why are you really here, Liv? She asked again, gentler this time. Olivia sank into the room's single armchair, suddenly looking exhausted. James and I had a fight after you left. He thought Mom's toast was inappropriate. I defended her. Habit, I guess. And then he asked me if I ever stand up for anyone other than her. Sounds like a smart guy, Emma offered. He is. Olivia twisted her engagement ring. Smart enough to call me out on a lifetime of complicity. That's a bit harsh. Is it? Olivia looked up, her eyes bright with unshed tears. I've watched her diminish you my entire life, and I've never once said anything. Not once, Em. The admission cost her visibly. Emma realized with a start that this might be the first time she'd seen her perfectly composed sister, truly vulnerable since they were children. She's our mother, Emma said, surprising herself by taking the role of defender. We both did what we needed to do to survive her. But that's just it. I didn't just survive her. I became her. Olivia's voice cracked. Tonight, watching you walk out that door, you looked so free. And I realized I've never felt that way in my entire life. The revelation hung between them, reshaping the narrative Emma had constructed over decades. The golden child, the perfect daughter, not triumphant, but trapped. It's not too late, you know, Emma said finally, to make different choices. Olivia laughed, a brittle sound. Says the woman who drove away from a family reunion but is still working at a corporate firm designing soulless office buildings because mother would approve. The words stung precisely because they contained truth. Emma glanced at her open laptop. the half-written email to Detroit still waiting for completion. Maybe we're both works in progress, she conceded. Olivia spotted the laptop screen. What's that about Detroit? Possibly a major life decision that Mother would definitely not approve of. Emma hesitated, then turned the screen so her sister could read it. I haven't decided yet. Olivia scanned the email, her expression shifting from curiosity to something like admiration. This sounds amazing, Em. Community-focused design in neighborhoods that actually need it? This is what you've always wanted to do. It pays less, Emma pointed out. No prestigious client list, no glossy magazine features. But actual meaning, Olivia countered. When did we decide that our lives had to be resume items that would impress Margaret Parker? Probably around the same time we started calling our mother by her full name like she's a particularly difficult client, Emma said dryly. They both laughed then. A real laugh, shared in a way they hadn't done in years. I brought something, Olivia said, reaching into her purse. She pulled out a slightly rumpled manila envelope. After you left, I went up to the attic to get away from the party for a bit. Found this in an old box of school papers Mom kept. She handed the envelope to Emma, who opened it with curious fingers. Inside were childish drawings, architectural sketches made by a much younger Emma, crude but imaginative designs for tree houses, community centers, even a fantastical city of the future with hanging gardens and communal spaces. I'd forgotten about these, Emma murmured, tracing the pencil lines with her fingertip. Mom kept them? Apparently, Olivia leaned forward. Look at the notes in the margins. Emma squinted at the faded handwriting. Exceptional spatial awareness. Creative use of environmental elements. Shows remarkable potential. These are from Mrs. Landry, my 4th grade teacher, Emma realized. She was the one who first suggested I might have talent for architecture. Read the note on the back of the city drawing, Olivia urged. Emma flipped over the largest sketch. There, in her mother's unmistakable handwriting, Emma's city design won school contest. Very proud. Consider summer architecture program? The words blurred as unexpected tears filled Emma's eyes. She was proud. She actually wrote it down. She's not good at showing it, Olivia said quietly. Never has been. But I think in her way she's always been proud of you. She just doesn't understand you like she thinks she understands me. Because I didn't follow her blueprint, Emma said, the realization dawning slowly. And I did, which made her comfortable. Olivia twisted her engagement ring again. I sometimes wonder if she even sees me at all, or just the reflection of what she wanted to be. The sisters sat in silence, absorbing the shifting perspective. A familiar landscape viewed suddenly from a different angle, revealing new contours and unexpected depths. I'm sorry, Olivia said eventually, for never standing up for you, for accepting my role as the favorite without questioning what it cost you. And I'm sorry for resenting you for it, Emma replied, as if you had any more choice in the matter than I did. Olivia gestured toward the laptop. So what are you going to do about Detroit? Emma looked at the childhood drawings, then at the email waiting for completion. I think I'm going to take a risk on something that matters to me, regardless of what Mother thinks. Revolutionary concept, Olivia said with a smile. What about you? Emma asked. What happens when you go back tonight? Olivia's smile faded. I don't know. James and I have some things to work through. And I have a lot of thinking to do about the wedding, about whether I'm marrying him because I love him or because he checks all of Mother's boxes. Do you love him? Emma asked gently. Yes, Olivia answered without hesitation. But I'm not sure I love the life we're planning. The country club membership, the house in the right neighborhood, the entire Margaret Parker playbook. So rewrite the playbook, Emma suggested. Together. Olivia looked thoughtful. Maybe we both need to start making choices that aren't reactions to her, either conforming or rebelling. Maybe we just need to figure out what we actually want. Emma glanced down at her childhood drawings again. The uninhibited creativity of a girl who hadn't yet learned to second-guess her instincts or measure her worth against her sisters. I think that little girl knew, she said softly, before we both got lost in Mother's expectations. Olivia reached across the space between them and took Emma's hand, the first genuine touch they'd shared in years. Then maybe it's time we both found our way back to who we were meant to be. Morning light streamed through hotel curtains Emma hadn't fully closed, creating a warm rectangle on the carpet. She lay awake, watching dust motes dance in the sunbeam, her mind clearer than it had been in years. Beside her, Olivia slept curled on top of the covers, still in her dress from the night before, their childhood habit of late-night sister talks having extended into the early hours. Emma's phone buzzed with a text from her father. "Everything okay? Your mother is concerned you both disappeared." The old Emma would have immediately responded with reassurances and apologies. Instead, she set the phone aside and quietly slipped from the bed to make coffee. Some conversations could wait. As the hotel room's small coffee maker gurgled, Emma opened her laptop and completed the email to Detroit, hitting send before she could second-guess herself. The decision, made in the clarity of morning rather than the emotion of night, felt right. A choice made for herself, rather than in response to or rebellion against her mother. "Is that coffee I smell?" Olivia's voice was muffled by the pillow she'd pulled over her head. "Hotel room version of it anyway," Emma replied, pouring 2 cups. Olivia emerged, her perfect blonde hair now a rumpled mess, mascara smudged under her eyes. She looked younger somehow, more like the sister Emma remembered from their teenage years. "I sent the Detroit email," Emma said, handing Olivia a cup. "Good." Olivia sipped the coffee and grimaced. "This is terrible. Also, I'm proud of you." The simple statement, offered without fanfare, meant more coming from Olivia than it would have from anyone else. Emma nodded her acknowledgement, not trusting herself to speak. "We should probably head back," Olivia said, checking her watch. "The reunion brunch starts in an hour, and Mother will be in full crisis mode by now." "Actually," Emma said carefully, "I'm not going." Olivia looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I'm not going to brunch. I'm driving back to Chicago today as planned. I have a life to reconfigure." Emma sat on the edge of the bed. "And I think I need some distance from Mother while I do that." "She'll see it as a rejection," Olivia warned. "Probably," Emma agreed. "But for once, this isn't about her. It's about me figuring out who I am when I'm not trying to earn her approval or avoid her disappointment." Olivia was quiet for a long moment, absently twisting her engagement ring. "Do you think it's possible to love someone and still need boundaries with them?" "I think it's necessary," Emma replied. "At least for me right now. I've never set boundaries with her," Olivia confessed. "I wouldn't even know where to start." "Maybe with brunch," Emma suggested gently. Olivia's eyes widened. "You mean, skip it. Come to Chicago with me. Take a day to think about what you actually want before going back to deal with Mother and the wedding plans and all of it." The proposal hung between them, radical in its simplicity. Olivia stared into her coffee cup as if it might contain answers. "James is expecting me at brunch," she said finally. "Text him," Emma countered. "Tell him you need sister time. If he's the right guy, he'll understand." Olivia's phone buzzed then, their mother's special ringtone. Both sisters stared at the device as it vibrated across the nightstand, neither moving to answer it. When it finally stopped, the silence felt significant. "She'll just call back," Olivia said, but made no move to retrieve the phone. "Probably," Emma agreed. "She's persistent." A diplomatic way of putting it. Olivia's smile was small but genuine. She took a deep breath and squared her shoulders, the gesture so reminiscent of their mother that Emma almost laughed. "Okay, Chicago. One day of sister time, no Margaret Parker allowed." As if on cue, Olivia's phone began to ring again. This time, she reached over and deliberately switched it off. "Let's get out of here before I change my mind," she said, heading for the bathroom. "I'm going to need better coffee than this to fuel my rebellion." The drive to Chicago unfolded like a gradual decompression, each mile adding distance not just from Indianapolis, but from the gravitational pull of Margaret Parker's expectations. Emma drove while Olivia alternated between anxious silence and bursts of almost manic conversation, her emotions swinging like a pendulum between liberation and panic. "She's called 7 times, Olivia reported, having finally turned her phone back on somewhere around the Illinois border. "And there are 15 text messages. The last one just says, 'disappointed.' Her favorite word," Emma noted, keeping her eyes on the road. "It's so effective, isn't it? Not angry, not worried, just disappointed, like we've failed some essential test of daughterhood." Olivia put the phone face down on her lap. "James called too. He says he understands and to take the time I need." "He sounds like a keeper," Emma said, meaning it. "He is. That's what makes this all so complicated." Olivia turned to look out the window at the flat Midwestern landscape. "I do love him. I'm just not sure I love the life we've been planning." "What would your ideal life look like?" Emma asked. "If Mother's opinion wasn't a factor at all?" Olivia was quiet for so long that Emma thought she might not answer. Finally, she said, "I'd still be a lawyer, but not corporate law. I've always been drawn to environmental law, actually, and we'd live somewhere with more nature. James loves hiking and camping. activities mother considers suitable only for people who can't afford proper vacations. The revelation surprised Emma. I didn't know you were interested in environmental causes. There's a lot we don't know about each other, Olivia pointed out. We've been so busy fulfilling or defying our assigned roles that we never really got to know each other as adults. It was true, Emma realized. Their relationship had been mediated through their mother for so long that they'd never developed an independent connection as grown women. Well, we have about an hour left in this car, Emma said. Let's start now. Tell me something about yourself that would surprise me. Olivia considered this. I've been taking pottery classes in secret for the past year. I'm terrible at it, but I love the feel of the clay, the way it responds to pressure and patience. She smiled sheepishly. Mother would hate how messy it is. Pottery? Emma laughed. That's unexpected. Your turn, Olivia prompted. I've been thinking about adopting a dog, Emma admitted. A big, slobbery rescue dog that would shed all over my minimalist apartment and completely disrupt my schedule. Mother would have a fit, Olivia said with obvious delight. She still talks about the unfortunate incident when you brought home that stray when you were 12. That unfortunate incident was the happiest week of my childhood until she found a more suitable home for him, Emma recalled without bitterness. I think that's why I've never had pets as an adult. It felt like another way she could disapprove. Get the dog, Olivia said firmly. The biggest, messiest one you can find. Take more pottery classes, Emma countered. Make wildly asymmetrical mugs for all of us to use at the next family gathering. They both laughed at the image of Margaret Parker's carefully curated dining table, disrupted by handmade pottery of questionable aesthetic value. As they approached the Chicago skyline, Emma felt a sense of possibility she hadn't experienced in years. The city, her chosen home, not her mother's, spread before them, its architecture a testament to both tradition and innovation. I've never really spent time in Chicago, Olivia confessed. Just in and out for work meetings in sterile downtown offices. Then you haven't seen Chicago at all, Emma said, a plan forming. We're going to fix that today. Where are we going first? Olivia asked, a hint of her childhood eagerness breaking through her usual composure. Somewhere Mother would definitely not approve of, Emma promised, taking the exit toward her neighborhood. And we're going to have a wonderful time. Emma's apartment in Wicker Park was nothing like the Parker family home. Where Margaret preferred muted beiges and carefully coordinated furnishings, Emma's space exploded with color and texture. Bright paintings by local artists, mismatched vintage furniture, and walls lined with architectural books and art supplies. This is not what I expected, Olivia admitted, turning slowly to take it all in. It's so vibrant. Mother called it visually chaotic the one time she visited, Emma said, dropping her keys in a ceramic bowl shaped like a lotus, one of her few attempts at pottery, years ago. She suggested a good interior designer could fix it right up. It's perfect, Olivia declared, running her fingers along a bookshelf crammed with volumes on sustainable architecture and urban renewal. It feels like you. That's the highest compliment it could receive, Emma replied, genuinely touched. She checked her phone, which had been mercifully silent during their drive. No missed calls from Mother. She must be focusing her energies on you. Lucky me, Olivia sighed. I should call her soon. And James. You should, Emma agreed. But first, let me show you my Chicago. They spent the day exploring the city as locals rather than tourists, starting with brunch at Emma's favorite neighborhood spot, where the chef knew her by name and the coffee came in eclectic vintage mugs. They wandered through the Logan Square Farmers Market, where Emma introduced Olivia to vendors she'd befriended over years of Sunday visits. They explored hidden architectural gems that never made it into guidebooks, a repurposed factory with a secret rooftop garden, an artist collective housed in what had once been an abandoned school. Throughout the day, Emma watched her sister gradually relax, shedding the poised perfection that was her habitual armor. Olivia laughed more freely, asked genuine questions about Emma's life and work, and spoke with increasing clarity about her own doubts and desires. By late afternoon, they found themselves at the lakefront, shoes off, toes buried in the sand as they watched waves crash against the shore. The Chicago skyline rose behind them, a dramatic backdrop to their quiet conversation. I've been thinking, Olivia said, drawing patterns in the sand with her finger. What if James and I postponed the wedding? Emma kept her expression neutral, though the suggestion surprised her. Any particular reason? To make sure we're building the right life together, not just the expected one. Olivia looked up, squinting against the sun. After our fight last night and everything that's happened since, I think we need to have some honest conversations about what we both want." "That sounds reasonable," Emma said carefully. "How do you think he'll respond?" "Better than Mother will," Olivia said with a grimace. "She's already booked the country club and sent save the dates to everyone in her social circle." "It's not her wedding," Emma pointed out. "No, but in her mind, it might as well be." Olivia sighed. "Do you think I'm being impulsive?" Emma considered this. "I think you're being thoughtful. There's a difference." Olivia nodded, seeming to take comfort in the distinction. "I should call James." "Go ahead," Emma encouraged. "I'll give you some privacy." As Olivia stepped away to make her call, Emma's own phone buzzed with a new email notification. The Detroit nonprofit had responded already. They were thrilled by her interest and wanted to schedule a video interview as soon as possible. Emma stared at the message, a mixture of excitement and anxiety swirling within her. This could be the beginning of something meaningful, something truly hers. But it would also mean dismantling the careful structure of her current life, disappointing her firm and, inevitably, facing her mother's judgment. From down the beach, she could see Olivia pacing as she spoke, gesturing with her free hand in the animated way she did when she felt strongly about something. Whatever path her sister chose, Emma realized, they were both standing at the threshold of significant change. That evening, they sat on Emma's small balcony, sharing takeout from her favorite Thai restaurant and a bottle of wine. The city lights sparkled below them, a constellation of human activity stretching to the horizon. "James thinks postponing is a good idea," Olivia reported, twirling noodles around her fork. "He said he's been having similar thoughts but was afraid to bring them up because he didn't want to disappoint me." "Sounds like you're both too worried about disappointing people," Emma observed. "Family pattern, apparently." Olivia raised her wine glass in a mock toast. "Here's to breaking it." They clinked glasses just as Emma's phone rang with their mother's ringtone. The sisters exchanged glances. "I should answer," Emma said reluctantly. "She's called 3 times today." "Put it on speaker," Olivia suggested. "We're in this together now." Emma nodded and accepted the call. "Hi, Mom." "Emma?" Margaret's voice was tight with controlled emotion. "I've been trying to reach you and your sister all day. Would you care to explain what's going on?" "We're having sister time in Chicago," Emma replied, keeping her tone neutral. "Olivia's here with me." "So I gathered from her cryptic text message," Margaret said. "What I don't understand is why neither of you attended the family brunch this morning. Your relatives were very disappointed." The familiar word, disappointed, hung in the air between them. Olivia reached across and squeezed Emma's hand. "We needed some time together," Emma explained. "Just the 2 of us. And this couldn't wait until after the family reunion that everyone traveled so far to attend?" Margaret's voice rose slightly. "Olivia, are you there?" James was completely blindsided by your absence. "I'm here, Mom," Olivia confirmed. "And I spoke with James. He understands." "Well, I certainly don't," Margaret continued. "First Emma leaves abruptly, then you disappear without proper explanation. People are concerned. Your father and I are concerned." "We're both fine," Emma assured her. "Just taking some adult time to reconnect as sisters." There was a pause. Then Margaret's voice softened marginally. "Well, of course it's nice that you're spending time together. I've always encouraged that. But your timing is inconsiderate, to say the least." Emma caught Olivia's eye, recognizing the familiar pattern, the initial anger, followed by the pivot to make it seem as though their actions were somehow contrary to her long-standing wishes. Before she could respond, Olivia spoke up. "Mom, I've decided to postpone the wedding." The silence that followed was so profound that Emma checked to make sure the call hadn't dropped. "I beg your pardon?" Margaret finally said, her voice dangerously quiet. "James and I have decided to take more time," Olivia continued, her voice steady despite the slight tremor in her hand. "We want to make sure we're building the right life together." "The right life?" Margaret repeated. "You have a partnership track position at a prestigious law firm. He comes from an excellent family with connections throughout the state. The country club is booked for your perfect June wedding." "What exactly is wrong with this picture, Olivia?" "Nothing's wrong with it," Olivia said carefully. "It's just not necessarily what I want." "And what do you want?" The question held a note of genuine bewilderment, as if Margaret couldn't conceive of desires that differed from her vision. Olivia took a deep breath. "I'm still figuring that out. That's why we need time." "This is absurd," Margaret declared. "Put Emma on. I want to speak to her alone." The sisters exchanged glances again. Emma shook her head slightly. "Whatever you want to say to me, you can say with Olivia listening," Emma said firmly. Fine. Margaret's voice hardened. This has your influence written all over it, Emma. Your sister was perfectly content until you put these notions in her head. That's not fair, Mom, Olivia interjected. This is my decision, mine and James's. We'll discuss this when you both return home, Margaret said with finality. Clearly this conversation isn't productive right now. She thinks I corrupted you, Emma said after they hung up, her tone caught between amusement and hurt. 32 years of being the cautionary tale, and now I'm apparently influential enough to derail your entire life plan in less than 24 hours. She needs someone to blame? Olivia replied, refilling their wine glasses. It's easier than accepting that her children might have minds of their own. They sat in companionable silence for a moment, the city noise rising from below, car horns, distant music, the collective hum of millions of lives unfolding simultaneously. I have a video interview with the Detroit nonprofit tomorrow morning, Emma confessed. They responded right away. That's fantastic! Olivia's face lit up with genuine enthusiasm. Are you nervous? Terrified, Emma admitted. Not about the interview itself, but about what comes after. If I get this job, everything changes. My address, my income, my professional identity. All of it. And your relationship with Mother? Olivia added softly. She'll see it as a step down. Inevitable, Emma agreed. But for the first time, I'm more excited than I am afraid of her disapproval. That feels significant. It is, Olivia confirmed. I felt the same way after talking to James today. Like I was finally choosing my own path, not just accepting the one laid out for me. Emma studied her sister's face, noting the subtle changes that had occurred over the course of just one day. A lightness around her eyes, a more natural set to her shoulders. Olivia had always been beautiful, but there was something newly authentic in her expression now. So what happens tomorrow? Emma asked. You go back to Indianapolis, face Mother? Start replanning your life? Something like that. Olivia nodded. James suggested we look at some properties outside the city. There's a small town about an hour away with a strong environmental conservation program. They need legal counsel. That sounds perfect for you, Emma said, genuinely happy for her sister. And you? If the Detroit interview goes well? I start packing, I guess. Giving notice at my firm. Finding a place to live. Emma gestured to her apartment. Figuring out what parts of this life I take with me and what I leave behind. Big changes for the Parker sisters, Olivia mused. Mother will be beside herself. Maybe, Emma said thoughtfully. Or maybe, eventually, she'll be proud of us for following our own paths. Olivia raised a skeptical eyebrow. That's optimistic. I prefer hopeful, Emma countered. We're not rejecting her after all. We're just refusing to be defined solely in relation to her expectations. A distinction she's unlikely to appreciate, Olivia pointed out. Initially, Emma conceded, but she's not incapable of growth. Remember the drawings you found? She kept those all these years. Some part of her saw and valued who I really was, even if she couldn't always show it. Olivia considered this. Maybe. And Dad will be an ally, I think, in his quiet way. He always has been, Emma realized, just not as overtly as we might have needed. The night deepened around them, the temperature dropping just enough to remind them that summer was giving way to fall. Change was in the air, not just in the seasons, but in their lives. We should make a pact, Olivia suggested suddenly. No matter what happens with Mother, with our careers, with anything, we stay connected. Really connected. Not just holiday card connected. Agreed, Emma said without hesitation. Monthly sister weekends, alternating cities, no mother allowed, physically or conversationally. I'd like that, Olivia smiled. A lot, actually. They sealed the agreement with another clink of glasses just as Emma's phone buzzed with a text from their father. Your mother is concerned. Are you both really all right? Emma showed the message to Olivia, who nodded encouragingly. Together they composed a response. We're better than all right, Dad. We're finding our way. Tell Mom we love her, but this is something we need to do. His response came quickly. I understand. Proud of you both. 3 words that meant everything. The morning of Emma's interview dawned bright and clear, September sunlight streaming through the windows. Olivia had already left for the airport, but not before making Emma promise to call immediately after the interview. The sisters had parted with a long hug and the certainty of their new pact between them. Emma sat at her small dining table, laptop open, dressed professionally from the waist up while still in pajama bottoms below the camera's view. The Detroit team would be connecting in 5 minutes. Her portfolio was prepared, her responses rehearsed, yet she felt a strange calm that had nothing to do with preparation and everything to do with rightness. This path, whatever its challenges, was hers to walk. Her phone rang, her mother's ringtone. Emma stared at the device, watching it vibrate across the table's surface. 3 minutes before her interview. The timing was either cosmically unfortunate or, knowing her mother, deliberately calculated. After a moment's hesitation, Emma answered, "Mom, I can't talk long. I have a meeting in 3 minutes." "This won't take long." Margaret's voice was clipped. "Your father told me about your interview today." "Detroit? Really, Emma?" Emma closed her eyes briefly, counting to 3. "Yes, really. It's an amazing opportunity to do meaningful work. At a nonprofit." Margaret said the word as if it tasted bitter. "After all the connections we've helped you build in Chicago's architectural community, after all the effort to establish yourself at a respected firm, my work will still be respected, Mom, just in a different context." "A less prestigious one," Margaret countered, "with less financial security and certainly less opportunity for advancement." 2 minutes to the interview. Emma took a deep breath. "This isn't about prestige or even money. It's about doing work that matters to me." "All work matters, Emma. That's a very privileged perspective to think." "Mom," Emma interrupted firmly, "I have an interview in literally 1 minute. We can discuss this later if you'd like, but right now, I need to focus." The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken words. Then, unexpectedly, Margaret's tone changed. "You're really serious about this," she said, not quite a question. "I am," Emma confirmed. "It's important to me." Another pause. "Your father found some of your old drawings yesterday, the city designs from elementary school. He was showing them to everyone who would look." Emma's throat tightened. "He did?" "He's always believed in your talent," Margaret said, the admission clearly difficult for her. "Perhaps more clearly than I have." The video call notification appeared on Emma's laptop screen. 30 seconds. "Mom, I really have to go," she said, her heart racing with more than pre-interview nerves. "Of course," Margaret replied. Then, just as Emma was about to disconnect, "Emma? Yes? Do your best," Margaret said, the familiar phrase carrying new weight. "And call me after. I'd like to hear how it went." The call ended. Emma stared at her phone for a precious moment, processing what had just happened. Not approval, exactly, but something adjacent to it. An acknowledgement, however tentative, of Emma's right to choose her own path. She clicked to accept the video call, composing her features into professional attentiveness as 5 faces appeared on screen, introducing themselves from the Detroit office. As she began to speak about her vision for community-centered architecture, Emma felt a profound alignment between her words and her deepest values, perhaps for the first time in her professional life. Whatever came of this interview, whatever challenges awaited with her mother, with relocating, with building a new professional identity, Emma knew with sudden clarity that she had already succeeded in the most important task, recognizing herself, at last, as the child we're proud of, with the we, now including, crucially, herself. 3 months later, Emma stood in her new Detroit apartment, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes and the echoing potential of empty rooms. December snow fell gently outside, transforming the industrial cityscape into something softer, full of possibility. Her phone buzzed with an incoming video call. Olivia, right on schedule for their weekly check-in. "Hey, how's the unpacking going?" Olivia's face appeared on screen, her backdrop a cozy cabin interior rather than her former sleek condo. "Slowly," Emma admitted, turning her phone to show the chaos. "But I'm making progress. How's rural life treating you and James?" "Honestly, better than either of us expected." Olivia's smile was relaxed, genuine. "The environmental law clinic is challenging work, but it feels right. And James has already joined the volunteer fire department, if you can believe it." "Mother must be thrilled about that," Emma remarked dryly. "Actually," Olivia paused, "she's coming around, I think. She and Dad are visiting for Christmas next week. She's already warned me about the rustic accommodations, but she's coming. That's something." It was something indeed. In the months since their impromptu sister weekend, both women had held firm to their new paths, despite Margaret's initial resistance. There had been tense phone calls, tearful confrontations, and one particularly dramatic family dinner, where Margaret had accused them both of deliberately dismantling everything I've tried to build for you. But there had also been unexpected moments of connection. Margaret asking genuine questions about Emma's Detroit projects, sending Olivia articles about environmental law cases, even most surprisingly, admitting during a rare, vulnerable moment that she sometimes envied her daughter's courage to choose their own ways. "Dad sent me something yesterday," Emma said, reaching for an envelope on her counter. "Look at this." She held up a professionally framed architectural sketch, one of her childhood designs, the city of the future, with its community gardens and interconnected living spaces. "He had it framed?" Olivia's voice softened. "With a note," Emma confirmed, turning over the frame to read from the back. "For your new office. The vision was always there. Love, Dad." "That's beautiful, Em." "It's going on my wall tomorrow," Emma said. "My first day at the new job." "Nervous?" Olivia asked. "Excited," Emma corrected. "For the first time in my career, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." The sisters talked for another half hour, making plans for Emma's visit to the cabin in January, discussing Olivia and James's new wedding date, a small ceremony by the lake next summer, designed around their values rather than social expectations. After they hung up, Emma continued unpacking, placing books on shelves and arranging her architectural tools on her new desk. Her phone buzzed again, a text from her mother. "Your father insists I send you this picture of the dog he's considering adopting. Please tell him 65 is too old to start with a puppy. Also, do you have proper winter boots? Detroit winters are brutal." The photo showed her father grinning beside an enormous, shaggy rescue dog with one ear flopped over. Emma laughed out loud, typing back, "The dog is perfect. Tell him yes immediately. And yes, I have boots. I'm an adult, remember?" Margaret's response came quickly. "Debatable. The dog or your adulthood? Call this weekend?" "Will do," Emma replied, smiling at the familiar maternal concern now expressed with slightly less control, slightly more genuine connection. She moved to the window, watching the snow transform her new city. 3 months ago, sitting in that hotel room with the painful echo of her mother's toast still ringing in her ears, Emma could never have imagined where that moment of public humiliation would lead. To reclaiming her relationship with her sister, redirecting her career, and even tentatively, rebuilding a more authentic connection with her mother. Some wounds never fully heal, but they can transform us, reshaping our paths, clarifying our values, and sometimes, unexpectedly, leading us home to ourselves. In the quiet of her new beginning, Emma finally understood. She had never needed to be the child they were proud of. She just needed to become someone she herself could be proud of. The rest, imperfect but real, would follow. If this story resonated with you, remember that family dynamics shape us but don't have to define us. The journey Emma and Olivia took, from public humiliation to personal liberation, reminds us that it's never too late to rewrite our stories and reclaim our authentic selves. As Emma discovered, sometimes the most painful moments become catalysts for our most important transformations. Her path forward wasn't about rejecting her family, but about finding herself within and beyond those relationships. What would your life look like if you made choices based on your own values rather than others' expectations? What conversation have you been avoiding that might lead to unexpected healing? If you enjoyed The Other Child, please subscribe to our channel for more stories that explore the complex territory of family relationships, personal growth, and finding your authentic path. Next week, we'll be sharing another powerful narrative about reconciliation and redemption in unexpected places. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. Until next time, remember that your story is still being written, and you hold the pen.